We are in your bat cave. What are you calling this?
It's my office. Just my office.
You don't have a nickname?
Not yet. It's pretty new. Well, it's Machete Comics. I just got to get where those pictures are that I've done. I got to get a big sign there. It says Machete Comics. There's where we color. There's where I draw and come up with stuff. And of course, I have two other artists that are doing gigs for me. One's in Oshawa and one's in Nova Scotia, Lonnie? Where's the New Brunswick? So I have a writer in New Brunswick, and I have an artist writer in Oshawa, and the head office is here in Kingston.
This is new. So adding on to like the 1,000 things that you're already doing with teaching.
Yeah, but I'm slowing that down. Slowing down the teaching or the teaching.
Oh
yeah. I'm keeping 20 students, and that's it. And just serious students. And then, and I'm focusing 100% now on my comic book company, Machete Comics, my wife and I. And it seems like the time to do it. I started out with the band thing that I thought was going to be my legacy to leave everything. And then it turns out to be a starting point to my school that I thought was going to be my legacy. And then it turns out that that's, the school's cool, and I love teaching kids, but I've just lost my passion to make it grow any bigger than it is. So do you find that it's like, you lost the passion because you've regained this other passion? No, so for a long time, you weren't drawing. For a long time, you were just teaching. Yeah.
And now drawing's back and you're killing it. And all the shit you're doing is awesome, is rad.
Oh, thank you.
But I'm just wondering if it's like,
I know they
come back.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. That's a really good question. No, the answer is because when you saw it is I had a big ass school. Like I was making a lot of money. Mind you, the place I was staying at, my house that I own, but the area was like my hydro bill was over $300 a month. Where I'm living now, it's $70 a month. Like over $300 a month for a hydro bill, man. That's nuts. So I was doing really well, but I was doing concerts with, you were getting me guys from groups like Headley, from like from Slash's band, and I was doing these great big concerts. I myself was teaching 15 to 20 kids a day. I had over 150 students a week coming in and out of my school. Half of my house was a school. So I had it to the point where I could have made that a really, really huge thing. So the reason that I don't want to do that anymore is because I was kind of on the cusp of that. And that's not where I want to be. That was nuts, man. I was so busy and dealing with so many different personalities and situations where you see kids, man, and you would kind of want to step in and help out situations, but that's not your role, man. Your role is a half hour to teach, right? So you get to that point, and I was actually working from Monday to Friday teaching music, and then tearing everything down and doing a comic book school on Saturday and Sunday in the jam space area. So I tear all the amps down and bring out drawing tables, and it got to the point that my timing with things, right? So I'd start teaching around 11 with parents. Or with adults, and then I'd end around like 10 o'clock, right? So, excuse me, your dinner time and everything shifted up. And I like to drink a bit too. So you end up doing a bottle of wine on an empty stomach while you're stressed out before you eat. And then you eat at like 12 at night and you go to bed. Oh my gosh, right? So I don't remember. I was in the hospital for about a week with pancreatitis because just my stomach was so messed up and I wasn't eating. And I was like thin as a rail. It was really bad. So to answer your question, is I was almost there. I experienced it and it put me in the hospital, man. So I had, there's no way I was going to do that again. And when I did let things get out of my control and I wasn't like, I'll just I'll hire all these kids and I'll hire an adult to work here. Nah, it wasn't. Then I had people complaining saying, wow, this is great. But that you're giving
thinning the herd out.
Well, the parents would come to me and say, this is great that you're giving me a time at your school. But you're not teaching me and this guy sucks. Or, this isn't, he's not really working as hard as I see you working. So I want you to teach my kid. So anything, when you own something like that with so many different people and you're dealing with kids, it all comes back on you. And man, I was always thinking of my school. I was always thinking of the kids, the parents, there's times where people hadn't paid me for like 3-4 months. Right. And the kids are still being dropped off for lessons. So it got to the point.
In that town too, we were in Port Perry, which is, loaded with money. Anyone that's listening around, Port Perry is like a suburb of Toronto, which in essence, what's suburb of Oshawa, but it's a beautiful little town. It's really cool. It's on a lake. It's great, but there's money there. And there's also not money there.
No, true.
So
there's two different
people,
spectrums, right?
There's two different spectrums.
There's the people that have grown up there and are just afraid to leave.
Yeah.
So they stay there, whether they can afford it or not. It's like, oh, I can't leave Port Perry. If I go to Oshawa, I'm going to get shot. You know, I had clients and people that I knew there that were amazed that I would go to Toronto. Holy crap, you go to Toronto? You know, I remember talking to kids in Blackstock that were amazed that I lived in Port Perry. It's like, are you serious? I feel so bad for you. So yeah, not teaching at a huge school is really enjoyable. Plus my personality, you know, I get too, you care about them too much, right? You get to care about them too much. And then the money slips and you're letting them go.
To your point, and it's to the point like you've always been a caring dude from the standpoint of like, you're always on the lookout as to what's going on with people. And I would imagine that in that particular, scenario, you've got a kid that doesn't even want to play guitar that day. He just wants to talk to you or something. Then all of a sudden it's a couch. So,
well, all of a sudden it's a conversation about something where you're worried about the kid. You know what I mean? Like that happens a lot. And
I don't know if people realize that. And I'm sure it's not just your school that this has happened to, but a lot of these, a lot of these kids are going to go through this, and Chris can make himself any age he needs to make himself. So
no, it's harder to make myself an adult.
That's right.
I'm always a kid. Way. It's harder to sit at the adult table and talk, excuse me, like current events and stuff than it is.
Yeah. If you've got like, an 8-year-old with anxiety or something but art lets them release that and they come in, or music lets them release that and they come in and next thing you know, they're just going to want to hang out with Chris. And that becomes a funny kind of dynamic because now the kid is allowed to be 8 with you instead of like being 8 with an adult. He's allowed to be 8 with another 8-year-old because you can dive into that because of your comics and all the stuff that you can offer, which is really, really cool. But I would imagine it's nerve-wracking when it gets stressful. And so then you move to that. So then you guys move to a new town.
So yeah, we came to Kingston.
Start it again.
Yeah. Well, my wife got sick when we first moved here. So we sold the house. We basically folded up the business that was, doing really, really well. I don't want to throw numbers around because that's just rude, but we were doing really well, man. Like, sure. it was as I mentioned, if you can tell by how much I was working and that I put myself in the hospital, I was doing okay. You know what I mean? But where we were living, we weren't, and plus I did the Kevin Smith method of starting a business where you just max your credit cards out, right? To get what you want. And that's what we did to fix up and build the schools, just maxed out a bunch of credit cards. And it worked. Yeah. It did work. And then we sold the house. We paid off the credit cards. And I'm here in Kingston now. And the sad thing is that basically when we sold the house, we found out that my wife had cancer. So not only were we folding a business I worked a decade for, leaving a town and a house that we lived in for over a decade, starting a new place, and my wife has cancer. So we got to go to a new hospital. And you're meeting people for the first time and you're all bummed out and you feel weird. Yeah. I felt so mentally effed up for the whole thing, just like talking to new people. The first thing you want to say is, hey, my name's Chris and my name's Chris and my wife has cancer. So if I act a little stupid, man, it's not you, it's me. You know what I mean? You feel like you want to explain that. Yeah. But if you do explain that, then people look at you like, whoa, I just met you. Why are you telling me that? So there's that whole thing. So trying to start a new business and trying to just be a normal mental state was really nuts. But the people around here really took me in well. And then once I got my mental state together and my wife got a little better, thank the doctors. The doctors are amazing. So if you're going out in public and a doctor's telling you not to go out in public right now with everything, you're an asshole. You want to tell me any of these politicians are wrong? That's fine. You want to tell me a doctor is wrong? Who's working 24? Wow, shut up, go home. You're an asshole. Like I have no other word for that. Especially going to these things with my wife when she had cancer and seeing people come in and going, oh, this was a 2-year process, man. This wasn't like going in for a couple of days at the doctor. You're in there. You see people, the same people all the time. I saw people going in there that were white, no hair, skinny, and I'm thinking, you're gonna die. Oh my God, because I'm sorry, my thoughts are like that. You know what I mean? Like I'm a comic book artist. I'm a musician. I don't, it's not like, hey, well, everything's going to be okay. It's like, wow, that person's going to fucking die. This has got to suck. And you see them gradually get better. And you're like, and you want to hug them. Right. And the doctors, the nurses come out, and I'm not the sick one. My wife is, but the doctors and nurses Chris, how are you doing? How's the lessons going? It's like, holy shit, hey, good. And you feel like you're being addressed by a celebrity, right? Because this person is saving your wife's life.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
You're all connected. You're all on a mission.
But at the same time, like I'm used to having things in my control.
Yeah.
My business was in my control. All of a sudden it wasn't. All of a sudden I got rid of it and I'm starting a new one. Now my wife is deathly ill and I have no control over that either. You know what I mean? Like that, me, personality wise, having like maybe a touch of ADD, being a little hyper, not having things in my control sets it off even more than it turns into anxiety. So trying to start a new business and having my wife sick, that was just, wow. It was a big test. And I thought, because, I thought I might get a huge school out here. You know what I mean?
Well, you're on pace, but now you're just reeling it in a bit.
Yeah, right. Well, I thought, I almost killed myself in Port Perry doing it. I'm going to try. Yeah. I have to do something in Port Perry. This is what I'm going to do. And the more I started doing it, the more I was just like, wow, life is short. It really is.
Thanks for stopping by, friends, to the Brenton On Tour podcast channel on YouTube. Coffee, music, travel, life, all of those things. One page, lots of guests, lots of chatter. We talk about all of it. If you like it, subscribe, hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Thanks, friends. See you next time.